It bothers me when everyone says we're the next Austin or Nashville or even Dallas. Mostly because Tulsa's never really been the kind of place that follows someone else's map. We've always been a little more make your own way, a little rough around the edges, a little unexpected, but real. We've got our own rhythm here. Maybe it's our size. We're a city where art shows up in world-class museums, old warehouses, and living rooms. Where music isn't just a scene, it's a conversation. And where people don't just pass through, they stick, and they build, and they give back. And yeah, we've got our gaps. Every place does. But we've got our own sophistication, this mix of grit and generosity, history and possibility. That's not something you copy. That's something you lean into. So let's not become the next anything. Let's just be more Tulsa. This is Paris of the Prairie. Chase, walking in downtown Tulsa, you feel it. These buildings have seen more things. Oil booms and busts, world celebrities passing through, the worst of humanity and the best of it too. Big dreams and even bigger possibilities. Today, we've got a guy who knows those stories and buildings better than just about anyone. Tulsa architect Ted Reeds has been a longtime voice in shaping how this city grows and how it remembers. He's designed everything from urban spaces, restaurants and hotels, to homes and mixed-use spaces. But just as important, he's helped protect Tulsa's architectural soul through the Tulsa Foundation for Architecture. Ted, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. We're glad to have you.
Yes. So when you walk downtown, what do you see that the rest of us just might pass by?
Well, I suppose it depends on what street you're on, but our most, if you will, urban street is Boston Avenue.
Mm,
And I think what I see is the diversity of architectural styles. Yeah, there's a street wall on both sides, like you're in downtown Manhattan. And by the way, it's the only street in this state that has that. Oklahoma City doesn't have anything even remotely approaching that architecturally.
Yeah.
Um, I see the diversity, the wide diversity of style from Art Deco to Sullivan-esque to the international style. And of course, right at the north end of it is Yamasaki's half-scale Twin Tower.
Yeah.
very
I,
cool.
I just, I can't tell you how much our city, our small city of what, 410,000 now in the city limits, the diversity of architectural styles with its own quality as well overlaid.
Mm.
There's no other place like it.
A lot of layering. Well, that's interesting. You mentioned I think you said the architectural wall, like of
The
a
street wall.
street
The
wall.
street what a street wall is, when you're walking down a sidewalk, right?
Uh-huh.
In in strip centers that we all are familiar with, where we drive and we park our cars. There's no connection really between the entry to the building and the street because there's a big parking lot in front of it.
Right.
But when you're in an urban situation, there's that human connection to the entry of the building because it's on the street and it's just it's the right way to do things.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating you mention it because I noticed that, I guess probably as much as anything, if you're not downtown itself, if you're going on like 244 and
Mhm.
you look up Boston from 244, you get that. Oh, look
Oh,
at
yeah.
there's a city right there. But and you
Oh,
don't, like you mentioned, you don't get it in Oklahoma City, and it always makes me feel bad for Oklahoma City when they show the Paycom Center, and then that huge Devon Tower, and it's just like, where's everything else? It's
no kidding. It's like,
it
boink.
it's definitely a downtown, but for some reason, it just on camera just doesn't give that look. Not
Yeah,
not to pick on
yeah.
Oklahoma City, but,
No, 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 no. I mean,
given an
they've done
opportunity, why not?
wonders, by the way. No,
Yeah.
since the bombing, and what we just have our 35th
31st.
anniversary,
Yeah.
31st, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's
They've
just
come
crazy.
together, and
Oh, yeah,
they
for
have
sure.
made that city work in a really good fashion, and they haven't
They
looked
really
back.
have. We used to always compare, I guess, is Tulsa better? Is Oklahoma City better? And blah, blah, blah. But after
Yeah,
that, I mean, I think Oklahoma City really stepped up with their MAPS
they
program and that
did.
stuff. And really, all of a sudden we were trying to catch up with them quite a bit.
Is there a hidden detail in Tulsa that you wish everyone would notice at least once?
Oh, gracious. This is specifically downtown or anywhere?
Anywhere in Tulsa.
Well, oh my goodness. There are so many surprises in Tulsa. Among them, believe it or not, are the giant hands out there at Oral Roberts.
Praying hands.
And every time I have people come here from out of town for, oh, I don't know, we helped hosted the National Trust for Historic Preservation in '06. And I took them out there, and they're all like, "What the heck is that?" They wanted to see what they referred to as God mod. That's the style that Frank Wallace, an architect who studied at Arkansas, but then worked under a couple of guys who studied under Bruce Goff, and that's where he got his style.
Oh,
Um, um, they're amazed at the size of those things, and familially, my son Laird, when he was about 6 years old, we're driving out there to a soccer game or something, and he looks at those hands, and he says, "Are those the hands of God?" And his mother says, "No, no, no, that's Oral Roberts." And my son goes, "Well, he must be a really big guy." And and of course, inevitably, I told my son, even though he was 6, I told him the same thing I tell all my friends is, you can get them to open up. All you gotta do is take a C note and hold it up right there, and they open up. So, anyway.
I've heard a joke along those lines.
Oh, yeah. And that's the less obscene one, but, um, no, that's a surprise, but, in terms of just walking downtown, details that I don't think most people notice are the little details of lions, snakes. There's some squirrels on buildings, and there are and they're usually pretty high up. So if you have a little pair of binoculars, you can find them. But those are to me the most, and the two gargoyles on the Phil Tower building on the west entry. Who's the architect? Who's the owner? Which one's Wade Phillips? Which one is Delk, the architect? Those are my favorites, truthfully. It's just
Oh,
pointing those out to people. And when I give fourth and fifth graders tour of downtown through a program that we run through TFA, with help from the Kaiser Foundation, we give them little bitty binoculars and okay, now go find a squirrel on that building, and they just go, ah, and
how
I
That's
fun.
found it, I
great.
found it. And those are the kind of simple, human, relatable details that we need to do more of in architecture.
Mhm.
Because while yeah, it's up on the second floor or sometimes as high as the third floor, um, people relate to that. They look at that detail, and then they look at the around of it, and they begin to understand the whole structure.
There's
Nice.
lots of little Easter eggs that I'm gonna have to look for now. So that's good.
Right.
Um, so now I'm kind of curious. What initially hooked you on architecture? Like, was there a moment or like a specific
Hmm.
building going way back?
Well, I mean, I'll be quick. My dad was an architect,
Oh,
who studied at OU under Goff. He
Oh,
first
I didn't
before the
realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either until he died, but anyway, he never talked about it. But before the war, he went to Oberlin for a year, and because his mother had gone there and his grandmother had gone there, and he didn't really want to, and he wanted to go into architecture. So his second year, he transferred into the master's program at Yale in architecture. Went there 2.5 years until, of course, December 6th, when the war broke out, and enlisted in the Marine Air Corps officers training. And then after the war, of course, he was welcomed back to Yale. They wanted him back, and he didn't want to work that hard. So he enrolled at OU thinking it would be an easy path. And then a year after he enrolled, Bruce showed up. And they got along for about a year, and it came down to literally his last semester, and he quit architecture. They
ah,
got into an argument. I'm not sure what happened. My dad was stubborn, to say the least. But I grew up around him, and his designs they're all over Tulsa.
Right.
Brent, you've been to the Westfall home there off the Circle,
Oh,
Timberlane
yeah.
Circle,
Yeah.
and the one down from your cousins, the Smiths. At the end of the road that was our home. The
Oh,
one
yeah.
that cantilevered off the cliff there.
Yeah.
Those are all Dad's homes. Those are just a sampling of Dad's homes, but he really was a good architect. But I didn't want to be like him, so I was pre-law until between my junior and senior years. And of course, I read The Fountainhead, which now I look back on, and it's like, really, that influenced me?
Yeah.
Because it's so static, ultimately, and also it's pretty fascist. Um, but I looked back on that, and I went, well, I do love this. I really do love building things and designing things. I finished out my French and European history at W&L, and then took a year off, made some money restoring townhomes in Georgetown, and then uh, was accepted to the non-architectural master's architecture degree program at OU, and went there, never looked back.
Awesome.
So I suppose what influenced me was just being around my dad, and actually working on his jobs in the summers for uh, slave wages.
you're
Right.
right.
But it didn't matter. I enjoyed working.
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing things be built. I particularly love watching the structure go up because, I mean, it's like our bones, right? Chase,
Right.
it's what holds us together. And
Yeah,
so that's why as my own style has evolved, I refer to it as an honest style where I don't hide the structure, whether it be steel or wood or concrete. I don't hide it.
nice.
Nice.
It's refreshing.
Well, early on, did you think you'd be, early on in your career, did you think you'd be shaping and preserving Tulsa?
Oh no. That's Brent, that's really interesting. I truthfully I did not. When I moved back from New York, where we lived all through the 80s and had two kids, and Lindsay and I moved back because we wanted to raise them around family. I had no. I wanted to do architecture, of course, and continue my career. But my father in law, Bob Laird, he started to get me involved in 501c3s, different trusts, the hospital, Hillcrest Hospital, where I was put on the building committee. I was put on by on Metropolitan Tulsa's planning committee. And through different events with both, mainly through the Metropolitan Transit group, they were going to tear down the Midco building downtown. and
Mm.
where the new bus station is. And so
Uh-huh.
I got to have a say, and so they presented it to our board, and I went, "What are you doing here?" And they had a series of like these umbrellas that the buses pulled into, about 4 buses just straight in. It was the most inefficient use of space, and they had no place inside for the people to get out of the weather. None. There was
Mhm.
no sense of arrival at like the Gare du Nord or Grand Central. There was no sense of pride of place of how
Yeah.
you arrive in a city, like our train station, right?
Right,
The
right.
Union Station. And so and they were going to tear down the Midco building, which now thankfully is preserved and it's had a couple of good bars down in the basement. I don't know if they have one there anymore. I think they do, but we saved that, and I made them go back to the drawing boards, and I sketched out on a bar napkin just different concepts,
Yeah.
and they came back to me first to present to the board their new concept, and that's where they came up with that deco station. And
Nice.
while it's not, I don't like mimicking styles, particularly historical styles. I think it works. And the way the wings work off of it, they get 3 times as many buses can work there. The
Yeah, you
people
just
have a
made 'em
place
think.
out of in the shade, or they can go inside. I think it works. I mean, I'll give it a C plus.
There you go. Well, you put him back on the drawing board to at least think
But
of.
I got involved in Tulsa Foundation. I helped found it with, let's see, a structural engineer, a real estate guy, another 2 architects, and Elaine Bergman, who was our executive director.
Awesome.
And that's we've been very happy in how that's proceeded.
Excellent. Well, it's got a great reputation. Is there one building in particular on the tour that still stops you in your tracks?
Oh, well, there's 2 of them. The Boston Avenue, of course, as you stand in the middle of the street, which you can normally do. There's not a whole lot of traffic on
Yeah.
Saturdays, and you look down there and you see it twisted tower, from Boston Avenue. And of course, that's because the tower is lined up on the Jeffersonian true north-south grid, and downtown's about 14 degrees off. It's perpendicular to the railroad tracks, right?
Oh,
So,
right.
so I call the tower and the whole church the fulcrum of Tulsa. It's where city
Uh,
meets town, and it just kind of it's got an
everything
energy to it, the way
everything
it's kind of
pivots right
twisted there.
there.
I love it. It's the intersection of, where people
Uh,
live and where people work, and to me, that is the most, that on the south end of downtown is, Goff's masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. He
mhm.
was born in '06, and he designed that in '26. It took 4 years for him to raise enough money and get it built. I think they finished it in '31,
Wow.
but that's his masterpiece, and then so he was 20 years old when he designed it. I don't know what you were doing at 20, and I know what I was doing at 20, and it was not
Nothing that
architecture.
nothing that responsible.
And we were so lucky to have who I refer to as America's Mozart architect. He started doing homes in North Maple Ridge at 12. I
Wow.
mean, he
Wow.
was a
Wow.
child prodigy. He just was a child prodigy. But then to the north end is Yamasaki's beautiful Williams Tower, now BOK Tower, which to me, so you have 2 styles. You have Art Deco, America's Church, which is what it's referred to as, because I
Uh,
don't think there's any other church quite like it,
yeah, I would
with
imagine.
a humanist, with a circle, a humanist uh, uh, sanctuary with 2 aisles, not 1 to the cross, but 2 offset from the cross,
Yeah.
and at the other end, a an absolute modern international style jewel.
Yeah.
That is the only one left of the towers. There's no
Right.
other.
Right.
And the story of it and the Williams brothers, having cocktails on top of windows of the world and liking the buildings, liking that building particularly, probably because it had deep shag carpet up there. And I used to love to go up there when we lived in the city. I'd take
Sure.
clients up there, and you spilled something, you didn't worry, it just disappeared. But
Well,
But it was and so they wanted to meet the architect, they met Yamasaki, and he allegedly came up with 2 30-story towers. They didn't like that, they thought it was kinda wimpy. So allegedly, he just ripped it up, stuck it on, and that's how we got this.
away they went. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
how much of what we see in our skyline today is in the fingerprint of the
Oh
uh,
my gosh.
oil money?
Uh, Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Brent, you grew up here, and Chase, of course, you've grown up here, and when Brent and I grew up here, and of course your dad's old like I am,
Yeah.
um, we were the oil capital of the world, and
Right.
so named legitimately. It was on the Tulsa World byline, right on the front page every morning, every single morning. Tulsa World, world capital of the world. And it was because while, we didn't pump as much oil as anywhere in the world, more oil was controlled through here, whether it was research or investment
Mhm.
or companies having their headquarters here, and just the net worth of all of that together. We truly were the world capital of the world. Then Monkey Brains kind of blew everything up for us in 83, 84, and after that, everyone basically went to Houston, but the money stayed here.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
did. But all the jobs and all the oil business went to Houston. Houston's now the oil capital of the world. Yeah, we are entire, most of those buildings, well, except for some recent ones that we've built in the Arts District and the Blue Dome District, which are mid-rise, high-rise. Um, well, actually, no, one of those is oil, the one that has the wonderful fried chicken in its base. That
Oh,
one was
right.
built by Devon, and then Devon got bought, and they weren't gonna put anyone up here. But it's occupied, it's working.
Yeah. Isn't
Uh,
that, is that the one where Helmer Payne is now?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Ah,
So, so it's occupied by an oil at least a
Right.
drilling
right.
company, but they own property as well. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now thinking about, the early builders of Tulsa, what do you think they wanted Tulsa
Yeah.
to feel like?
Well, that's interesting because I talk about this when I do a walking tour above ground. I talk about how Tulsa was, I mean, first of all, we're laid out on a grid very similar to downtown Manhattan. We had, in terms of naming of our streets, we're exactly like Manhattan. Everything north south is a name street, right? And
Mhm.
starting from Main Street going west, they're alphabetical, named for cities or places. And going from Main Street to the east, they're listed alphabetically, just like Manhattan. Numerically, from I think it's Archer, everything to the north starts with 1, goes forward, north, First Street North, Second Street, and then to the south, First Street South, Second, Third Street South, and so on.
Nice.
So it was set up like a business, just
Yeah.
like Manhattan is set up primarily for business. And
Mhm.
so that took a lot of foresight, you know.
Yeah,
But
truly.
why it was is because we had guys um coming from who in the oil business, didn't just grow up out of the weeds, they didn't just show up and put a stake in the ground and find oil. They came from cities like Pittsburgh, Chicago, Philadelphia, of course, St. Louis, and New York. I mean, Getty came here from New York. His dad
Mm.
kicked him out of the house. He came here with $2 million and started his own oil business here. You know, this is where he got his start. William Skelly. Marlon grew up around Pittsburgh and always wanted to be like a Rockefeller. And so he's in Ponca City. But, you know, an exception to that truly is. So they brought with them their cultures, right? Their
Yeah.
idea of a city. And it was already in their idea that it was a walkable, urban, dense place, and they wanted to do it well. Harry Sinclair, of course, came from an urban setting and did quite well, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um, there are exceptions to that, and that is Wade Phillips. You know, he had a twin brother, and anyway, long story short, ended up going in business with his brothers who were already established in Bartlesville, but they came from nothing in Iowa. They were just little farm boys, you know.
Yeah.
But that is the rare exception. These others had been to cities and seen them and lived in them, and so they brought. But yet, Waite also wanted a city to be as good as it could be, and he really
Mhm.
believed in the whole urban thing. He really
Right.
did,
Yeah.
Right.
And it
and
kind
I
of
think we're
fits.
lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And they
like
were
the
so forward thinking. Think of Spavinaw, you know, they went out and got enough water so they could grow densely and quickly.
Yes.
Um, the way our underground heating system is downtown, they had central steam heat to most of those buildings that were provided in the 20s through up to World War II. Still in existence, still provides heat to a lot of buildings down there.
That's an amazing thing.
It is. I mean, they were forerunners. The Phil Tower building, when it was built, it had its own phone system, intra office phone system, 1927. Um, I don't. It's like having the internet. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone else had that.
Yeah.
It is really cool how it seems like, they had a vision to make Tulsa, a metropolitan city, but it still had its roots in oil and whatnot. So it's very much town and country feel. Would that be kind of accurate to
Hmm.
say?
That's true. That's true. Almost. Yeah, particularly if you look at our old neighborhoods like Riverview, North Maple Ridge, and then over North Tulsa around TCC, where the Kennedy mansions were and the Springer mansion was. That, of course, has
Mhm.
been cut off because of the Gilcrease Expressway, which is another thing we can talk about another day. If traffic engineers are the bane of urban existence, that's as politely as I'll say it.
Yeah.
Uh, they could care less about people. But at
Right.
any rate, all of those places were built almost like manor houses, you know, and they had land around them, and they were all designed by architects. They weren't just Bilderbergers, you know, these big
Right.
12,000 square foot kit homes that you see in South Tulsa so much. Uh, but we still have good residential architecture here. And I'll put it up against any city, any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very unique. And there was a
abs
certain pride, and I don't know if it was just because of the time in which all of this synergy came to
Hmm.
be, but obviously, and Chase, I might be stepping on your toes, but
go
Tulsa's
ahead.
got one of the best deco collections in the country. And,
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
we're so lucky for that richness. I'd have to ask, what's your favorite detail or example of Art Deco architecture in
Oh
town?
my gosh. There's so many. And of course, that was our main draw to get the National Trust to come here was our inventory of Art Deco. And I don't know if this is true. You know, Tulsa has a lot of Tulsa myths, right? But
Yeah.
I think this is true, is that next to Chicago, we have the second, or no, excuse me, next to, let's see, it goes South Beach in Miami has probably the most dense, streamlined Art Deco and Art Deco architecture. And I think it's Chicago next, and then we're the third most dense in terms of the quantity of Art Deco structures in the country. But
Amazing.
it was timing, Brent. A lot of it was the cool style of the 20s. Now, we could have chosen the international style, which was also happening at the same time. But I think these guys who built it and who wanted to show that Tulsa was a cool place and I'm going to build a cool building. I don't think they wanted to build these anonymous white boxes. You know,
Right.
I just don't think they did. They
Right.
wanted something
With
innately understood that is
uh
more approachable by human beings because of color and detail and color and form and the idea of you can relate to that
Yeah.
as a style of architecture. And of course, Deco was poo-pooed until probably the middle 60s as not a true architectural style. It was called ornament. And
Uh,
I mean, come on,
Really?
because
give
of
me a
the functionality of it or
Y
something, is that
no, the functionality of it and the layout of it was no different, but the international style was there's no detail. You know, form follows function, and quite frankly, there was a I'm glad that we did that. We broke from history. We built, all of these wonderful, boxes, but, uh it's unapproachable, you know? It's just, okay,
mhm.
it works, but you don't find any joy in it. You find joy in Art Deco, and you
Yeah.
find a heart in all of those buildings.
Well, it opens you up to more than just Art Deco.
Yes.
The environment
Yes.
and
Mhm.
the purpose, and the that makes me think of, your time as a professor at, OU. I know you've taught architecture down there, and, what do you hope students learn by studying a city like Tulsa?
Oh, wow. Well, I take them up here every year. This year, I brought 130 of them up in the first
Oh,
semester.
wow.
And I walk them. These are all freshmen. We had record numbers again this year. I don't know
Really?
why people are starting to get interested in majoring in architecture. I can't tell you. I have no idea. But every
Mm,
year it's gotten bigger down there, and I've been down there 6 years, and I'm returning next year. But I I want them to get out of it really quite simply that whether you're visiting Tulsa and walking around or downtown Manhattan or Oklahoma City or Bristow or even any city that you're
yeah,
visiting and you're in its downtown area, you're in its denser part, that you can design the best buildings in the world. I mean, it can be a piece of art that's world renowned, but it's nothing without you in it, you participating with. A city can be, I mean, you look at some of these cities that have been built in the Middle East, and there's these beautiful, striking pieces of architecture. But if
mm,
you zero in on that, there's no one walking around them, and most of them are half empty. And so they're soulless. They're
yeah,
to me, I wouldn't ever want to live there. When
not a
we
lot,
built Tulsa and when we continue to build Tulsa, we always have in mind that we put up a structure that people are going to want to be part of. They're going to want
right,
to either live there, and if you build a good building, like we have from the 20s on, you can adapt it. You know,
mm,
if the oil bust goes and they move all you turn it into lofts, and we've done that.
right,
And thankfully, most of them have qualified for historic tax credits because of their architect or their architecture, or an important thing happened there, or they're over 50 years old. and they're in an historic district, which we did form downtown called the Oil Capital District. Um, that's the formal name for it. There's other spinoffs of other parts, the Deco District, the Blue Dome. You know, you guys are familiar with those. But
Mm-hmm.
the tax district is the Oil Capital District, and we have over 200 buildings that qualify, and they've used historic tax credits, both federal and state. And our state historic tax credit program is the best in the country. It's one of the first things that we are number one at, not 49 or 50.
Right.
Nice. So yeah, you've been a big part of the architectural tours. Uh, what's your favorite stop on the tour, and why?
Oh my gosh. Uh, I really do think it's the Phil Tower lobby. You know, you go in there and it's American Gothic. So
Yeah.
everyone already feels kind of transcendental or just comfortable in there. It's a very peaceful space. And I always ask the question, well, where do you think you are? And inevitably, oh, I'm at church, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's an obvious statement. But you have to realize that he built that for business. The
Right.
last thing he did was to build it as a place of theocracy. It was
Yeah.
built for capitalism. And so what I like to tell people is, yeah, you know, that is the form, but could it not also be a place where you can clear your head as you're going through here? You feel comfortable to clear your head, get ready for the day, or clear your head as you're going to a meeting so you can make deals, so you can make decisions. So perhaps you're going to figure out where you're going to go out to dinner that night. It provides you a almost what I refer to as the womb of Tulsa, of modern Tulsa, because um, what Waite did there architecturally was great. But what he did more for his city and giving back more, he's really our first true philanthropist, if you will. He
Yeah.
gave back more to the city than he took out. And when he left for California in whatever, 36, 37, for Los Angeles, all the rent for that building went to Boy Scouts for America until 1978 when Hawkins family bought it. And they've lovingly really done well. I mean, they've done historic tax credits and really preserved it. But I always call that the womb of Tulsa because of the
That's
idea of giving back. And he really set the legacy that we in Tulsa are very lucky to still be receiving from families, from trust of families that all began about that same time. Some of them are newer, but we are very lucky that. I mean, our Tulsa Community Foundation. I don't know. The last time I checked, its net worth was like 6.8 billion.
wow.
Um, The only one that's higher than us is Silicon Valley, and sometimes when their stock goes down and the price of oil goes up, we're always one too, but the next one in line is, Manhattan in New York City, and it's
Wow.
2.2 billion.
Wow.
It's not even close.
That's amazing.
We have
Yeah.
410,000 people in this city,
That's really earth shattering. I mean,
but that's because people
oh,
care,
yeah,
and Waite started that.
incredible. Well, is
Yeah.
there a moment on the tour where you can see just like the awe that we had, where things just kind of click for people?
Well, I tell you, when I drive in from Norman, when I cross the 51st Street Bridge. And this can be done walking the new bridge at the
Mhm.
gathering place.
Mm.
And you look right down the river because you're looking at the long way of downtown, if you will, the north south, right? It,
Mhm.
it looks like a city of 2 million people, our skyline. It could hold,
Right.
I mean, we have a better skyline than Detroit. We have a better skyline than Kansas City, better than St. Louis. All those tall buildings that we built.
Mhm.
Um, and we're still not 500,000. That's inspired. But in terms of just a walking tour downtown, I think when and this is kind of odd, but when I do a tour of the north side of the arts district, and we're walking around and we're showing them those plaques of Greenwood, right, of formal occupants of different sites in Greenwood, and we're talking about the development of Tulsa, and of course the Greenwood massacre. And you walk around and you look up Boston Avenue from a low point, and you look up there. It is, to me, it just kind of, it's like a pop up book. It's just
Uh-huh.
like hits you in the face.
Yeah.
And those are really, that's really the backside of Tulsa. And to me, that is, it's raw, more raw, but it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
That's my favorite spot.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Speaking of tours, do you have any funny stories that stand out from folks on tours, or maybe anything they might have known that you didn't know?
Well, so, we started this, God, I don't know, 2010, I think, at the Mayo Hotel. And we'd meet in the lobby and we'd charge $10. I gave all the tours, and it was always on a second Saturday. And our first one was in October of 2010, I think. So we've been doing this 16 years.
Uh,
And so this is probably my second or third one. And we used to have on special days, like we had a Christmas tour where we would have a special cocktail at one of the stops. Okay.
oh, nice.
And then Mother's Day, of course, we had mimosas or some special Valentine's Day, around that, we always had a special drink. And this one lady, this was in the winter, so it must have been Valentine's Day. Anyway, they were pretty strong drinks. And she had one, and basically she sat down and she didn't wake up. She didn't die, but she sat down on those little round
Oh
cushion
no.
couches and she fell asleep. And
Oh,
so we
no.
just left her. And literally, there's no one else there because I had like 8 people on my tour. And we just walked downstairs. We did the tunnel, that connected up to Philcade, and we walked down a little bit more. And I went and took everyone back to the Mayo, and then I walked back over there. I just woke her up.
She was still there.
Yeah, she had a good nap.
Good for her. Well,
Good.
this is funny that you mentioned the tunnels, and also earlier you mentioned all the myths and so forth. I was doing research on developing this show,
Oh,
and all of it was going to be more based on the myths and things like this, kind of the history of Tulsa. And I went down a rabbit hole that evidently there was this big oil tycoon that even named the guy, which a name I can't remember now. But this gentleman, evidently it was around the time that the market crashed. And he evidently had a tunnel going from the bank to his office building, and then from his office building to his home in North Maple Ridge.
oh
And
my gosh.
evidently, before all the creditors could come in and collect from him, he got all of his money out of the bank and went to his home and supposedly escaped to Mexico. Well,
Oh
all
my gosh.
I'm sitting there looking at this story and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never heard anything like this. And then, it's got like
Mm,
articles talking to, city workers that found the tunnel from his building to his house, in
mm-hmm.
the 50s sometime. There's supposedly a Tulsa World article. Well, I started to do a little research on it. It was all bogus.
Yeah,
I,
I
I
wish that
don't
was
know. I
real
don't know.
though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Anyway,
but we grew up with stories like that, and
I know.
we have that because
Yeah.
Tulsa was Little Arabia. I mean, before there was the
Yeah,
Arabian Peninsula, there was Tulsa. And
right.
this is
And
where
all
you
these,
came to make it rich,
yeah,
and you did. By
right.
and large, people succeeded here. There
Yeah.
were older ice tunnels from the Arkansas River to downtown
Mm.
that they used for, refrigeration systems. Those were
Oh,
true.
really?
That was true.
Wow.
But those largely disappeared in the 20s. But I mean, big chunks of ice, in the winters, they just drag them in so they could
All
use
these
them
are,
in their refrigerators. Yeah.
Wow.
wow.
So there are
That's
tunnels.
true.
That's
That's
cool.
Yeah,
something.
well, those are gone. They've been gone a while. But I still love the tunnels at Tulsa. That is my favorite tour to give because people are so surprised. And we
Right.
we only show half of them. I wish we could extend it, but eh.
Are there like safety reasons or just security
Well, in
reasons?
some cases, yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of the tunnels, what was that thing of the flower moon? What was that movie
Oh,
called?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The
Killers of the
killers.
Flower Moon.
So they asked that I get a call from whoever that lady is who runs our state film stuff to help her find stuff in downtown to shoot different type films, right? So she
Uh-huh.
came to me and she sent me this guy who was, I don't know, cinematographer or whatever for the movie, and he wanted to see X amount, and he wanted to see an unused tunnel. So I took him to the one on the east side of the Phil Tower, which connects to Philcate, and it is dark and danky and perfect. And I think they used that in the film or
Wow.
somewhere in the film. And he used one of the original doors and and hallway to the Atlas Life building for an office, for a lawyer's office building thing.
Oh, yeah. I,
Yeah.
That
I,
was
I loved the, and this is something that I think I discovered when I was in high school, was Atlas holding the
Oh my
globe,
gosh.
on that
He's up
building.
there holding
It's kind of
everything,
like
huh?
you were talking about the squirrels, and stuff. That was
That,
something
that's
when I discovered that, I thought, well, isn't that just the coolest thing?
And did you ever stand back and look what he's not only holding up the world, but it's got North America emblazoned on there with a
Oh,
red star with a leader coming out that says Tulsa right over
um,
the center of his head.
I didn't, no,
oh,
Oh
I'd love
yeah.
to go back and look at it with some binoculars.
Not now. Not now. It's
Oh,
all
no.
washed out.
Oh, is
It's
it?
on it's on my lotto list. It's about third. I'll restore it if I win lotto.
nice. Um,
That's good.
well, this is mostly for listeners or people watching the show, but when are tours given and how can someone sign up?
Well, second Saturday tours are given every second Saturday of every month, come rain or shine. Um, TulsaArchitecture.com. Very simple, TulsaArchitecture.com. Um, Melinda Blank is our new executive director. Lindsay Kirkendall is our tour director, among other things. And either one of them will help you. But if you go to TulsaArchitecture.com, you'll see all of the tours coming up, other than Second Saturday, of course. We give special tours. We have about once every 3 months, we do a Tulsa architecture cocktail class at the Vault,
No?
which is really interesting, where we talk about different buildings and how they relate to the structure of whatever cocktail we're making that day. Uh, we have a lot of specialty things. And of course, we're always looking for more helpers, more docents.
Right.
And just by even doing the program, you learn how to love your city more. And it's
Yeah.
easy. Uh, Become a member. It's like, I don't even know what the membership is anymore, but it's not much. It's well
Oh,
worth it. Join TFA.
I'm
very good.
definitely gonna look into that for sure and
Oh,
mm,
Chase, you would
take the
love it.
word out.
You'd love it.
I absolutely would.
Good
Um,
group of people. They're not just all old like I am.
we respect our elders, you know?
I'm going to tell you a funny story before. I'm
Oh yeah.
talking with a guy earlier. He had seen you at an event, and as a mutual friend, and this buddy is with him, and he's like, "Well, would you look at that? There's James Garner." And the guy's just like, "That's not James Garner." He was like, "No, no, no, that's James Garner." He's like, "James Garner's dead."
It's dead.
But he was pointing at you, saying you were James Garner. How
You
about
know,
that?
when Lindsay and I go out to dinner occasionally in Norman, we went to the Legends the other night, and some guy said the same thing to me. He said,
Did you really?
"Are you
That's
related to
great.
James Garner?" "Well, sorry, but he is dead, and no."
He's risen.
Yeah.
But no, I said to him, "He is still dead."
That's great. I did have to look up that actor, and I see the resemblance, but that's
Oh
pretty.
God,
Um,
yeah.
so in like 25 years from now, what does an even more beautiful, livable Tulsa look like in your eyes?
Well, I think it's going to continue to move back to the center, to downtown. I think the central business district will be alive.
Mm.
It truly will be day to night occupied, people on the streets. I think climate change has been good to us because it's getting hotter to the east. It's moved. We've actually become a nicer climate.
I
I have
know.
no idea why.
I know.
I'm not going to question it. I think we will be more livable because it will be more walkable. It'll be returned to its density when it truly was a city. Uh, I think some mass transit will come into play. I just see maybe 2 or 3 lines going north south, a couple going east west, but all of them terminating downtown. Uh, I don't see that being anything beyond that because by then we'll all be driving electric cars, thank God.
Yeah,
Uh, and there's really not going to be that need to overcome the smog because it'll be cleaner, right?
Mhm.
But I do think mass transit will be better. Basically, people will move back and people will occupy downtown again to live and work. And it will return to the vibrant cultural mecca of the Midwest that it once was.
well, that makes me feel a lot better about the future.
Yeah.
And what we have on the books right now in terms of zoning and planning, it's all based on that. We're just so lucky, Brent and
Yeah.
Chase, that we had. So that's our legacy. We got to
Yeah.
keep doing it right, and ultimately it will get back to right.
Right.
But if you don't honor that legacy and you just, oh, we're just going to build like North Dallas, we're just going to keep moving out, then you don't have an existence because you don't talk to each other as a city.
Yeah. Well, this has gone. This is so quick. We've reached the end of our questions, but I feel like we'll take we'll both take the tour and have you back because
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure
thank
that,
you.
that will create a
I
lot.
would love to
of
get do
questions.
that. And
Well,
do you see the painting behind me over
yeah,
my shoulder?
I've been
yeah,
noticing.
That's one that my mom gave me when well I got it when she passed away many
right.
years ago, and his name is Idiot Boy.
Ah, I love it.
It's from the school of Amavose, and the painting dates from the early 15th century.
Wow, that's
Wow,
awesome.
It's not a print.
I love
that's
it. I love
incredible.
it.
So
Well,
I don't really I'm sure a few people have older paintings in their house, but I always like to have Idiot Boy over my shoulder.
that's nice. That's nice. Well, we'll wrap things up with our signature question, and that is, what says Tulsa to you, and where do you go to find it?
What says Tulsa to me, and where'd I go to find it? Oh my goodness. What says Tulsa to me is the Arts District, and where I go to find it is the Bull in the Alley.
Ah,
Oh,
very, very nice.
that's a nice place.
Because there is no sign on the door. There's this little bull he's well hung up above the door. The alley is full of dumpsters, typically overflowing you got to walk through sticky, spilled stuff, and you open that door and you're in a place of magic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
perfect. I like
Wonderful
that.
way to describe
Good,
that.
good architecture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, we can't thank you enough,
Well, thank
and
you.
we will certainly get out there on the tour and circle back with you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'm
Sounds
excited.
good.
All right.
Y'all have a good one. Very nice meeting you, Chase, and always good seeing you, Brent.
Very
Always
nice
good
to
to see
meet
you as
you.
well.
Yeah,
All
thank you
right.
for being on.
All right. Cheers.
Ted, you've got a way of reminding us that these buildings aren't just structures, they're receipts. Proof of who we were, what we believed, and how big we were willing to dream. Don't forget to try something new this week, like taking a tour of Tulsa's unique downtown. And as always, follow Paris of the Prairie wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know someone in Tulsa who is making a difference, send us a note to info@parisoftheprairie.us.